Welcome to the Her Story Circle podcast, the podcast that brings you the extraordinary tales of everyday women who are changing the world. I'm your host, Gertrude Mache, and I'd like to acknowledge traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today. I also like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging. Every week, we dive into the lives, challenges, and triumphs of women from all four corners of the globe. We're here to inspire, enlighten, and connect, sharing stories that uplift and empower. So grab a cup of coffee, settle in, and join us as we explore the incredible journeys of women shaping our future. This is Her Story, where every woman's voice matters. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Her Story Circle. This is Gertrude Mache here in beautiful Melbourne, Australia. And today I am graced with the presence of yet another fascinating young woman. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our tribe. Please tell everybody your full name, where you're based, and share your story with us today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Crowell. I am based in Washington, D.C. in the United States, here in the capital. And I'm coming to you. It is 6 o'clock Tuesday evening, my time, or Wednesday, actually. It's 6 o'clock Wednesday evening, my time. I'm coming to you from Washington, D.C. here in the United States. And I'm so excited to be here today. A little bit about me and my background. I currently work as a social worker here in Washington, D.C., and I've been doing that for a while. I have both my bachelor's degree in social work with a minor in nonprofit management and administration, as well as my master's degree in social work with a concentration in children and families. In graduate school, I served as a child welfare scholar and research assistant, and I later produced a social documentary that was doing a public service announcement as well as public health education around child maltreatment. That served as my capstone for my graduate program. Once I finished graduate school, I started my career as a social worker, and I've worked in a lot of different settings. I've worked in community mental health. I've worked as a child therapist in inpatient, outpatient settings. I worked in an emergency room during the COVID-19 pandemic, which was an experience that really helped shape who I am today and helped shape my view on a lot of things. And that really defined me, as I think it defined so many of us and where we are today. Let's see, from there, I worked in different programs and I helped launch different impact initiatives within my work. So I worked at an agency in which I helped start our pediatric high needs program. I later went and worked at another organization where I helped start a dual diagnosis substance use program. And at my current role, I've been leading our project management for our health portfolio around our child's health work. My interest in social work and my advocacy around child health and child well-being, I think really comes from my own background. I'm an adoptee, and I was adopted into and grew up in a military family. So I had the privilege of growing up in different parts of the United States. And I think that really helped shape a lot of who I was as well, because I was used to seeing such a diversity of people and of backgrounds and experiences. And one of the amazing things about growing up on a military base is that you are also exposed to people who are also exposed to a lot of different other things. And so I think it really helped me to widen my own worldview at an early age and to carry that knowledge and understanding and willingness and acceptance of people in different backgrounds and different experiences, and being open to hearing and receiving that without judgment. And I think that's really what's helped make me a good social worker and helped me later transform my career into being a social impact strategist. A lot of my background with growing from a military family, I also think really helped shape my sense of integrity and my sense of service at a young age. Those were values that were very much instilled into me. And that's what really helped inspire my service work. I have a long history of volunteerism. I helped start my first service project in about the 4th grade with the help of my mom. And we did a toy drive for a local children's shelter, like a women and children's shelter in the area. And from there, I kind of just fell in love with service and giving back and making a positive impact in the community. I later went on to high school and I volunteered at the library frequently throughout high school. And when I went off to college, I joined a co-ed service fraternity, Alpha Phi Omega. From there, we did a bunch of different community service projects within our area, and then we were each responsible for doing a certain amount of service hours a semester. And so I did that for 4 years, as well as serving on our executive board, and I later served as a chapter president. And that's really what helped develop my module and my thinking and framework as a servant leader, of being a leader who wants to serve the people I'm leading, but also wants to push the people I'm leading to serve the community in different and more innovative and impactful ways. I also became a member of a historically Black, we call the Divine Nine sorority, Sigma Gamma Rho sorority incorporated in college. It is also a service-based organization that is founded around greater service and greater progress, and was founded around education being an avenue for growth and an avenue for empowerment for women and children. And so I think the cool thing about looking back on my story and looking back on my life is seeing how much I've always been dedicated to service and how that service has grown into service leadership. And that's really what's helped grow into where I am today as a speaker, as a social impact strategist, and as the current Miss Black District of Columbia, USA 2025. So kind of how I got started in speaking, social impact strategy, and pageantry is all very related. Like I said, I became a member of my sorority that same year, right after I gave my first keynote speech, and I spoke at a Women's Empowerment Summit on leadership development in women and what that looks like. And I talked about how leadership development has to be tailored towards women when we want to develop women into leaders. And so that really started my speaking career. And I've been speaking on different topics from mental health to women's development, women in leadership development, women's empowerment, workplace wellness. I started doing pageants in 2020, and because I really wanted to look for new ways to serve the community and to give back. And at the time I won my first title, which was USA National Miss Rocky Mountain. And I was going to different organizations and I was talking about anti-bullying because that was our national platform. Later, when I went to go compete at another pageant, my platform then was around trauma-informed care for children and addressing childhood trauma. And so I was going to different organizations and I was volunteering my time by training their staff on how to be trauma-informed when working with children. So as a therapist, I was able to do really tailored and unique trainings for a lot of their volunteers or staff who didn't have that background on what trauma in children looked like. And from there, that's kind of how I became a consultant and later a social impact strategist. Was I built relationships with organizations and brands and coaches and trainers, even outside of the nonprofit and child space, who were one, looking on how to make an impact in their community and how to use their own platform to make an impact, but two, wanted to not harm people that they were serving. They wanted to be trauma informed. They wanted to know how to better meet their customers and their clients where they were. And so that started my social impact strategy. And now I've been able to launch my own initiatives and continue that work as Miss Black DC USA. My current initiative, it's been my initiative for a while, is Resilience Through Reading, in which I advocate for childhood literacy as a way for children to heal, learn, and lead. I've been able to serve as an ambassador and a tutor for a literacy organization here in DC. I've been able to launch Read Her Story, which was my Women's History Month literacy initiative. That was a multimedia campaign across digital, radio, and television, as well as community events. And so I did 6 community events partnering with 5 different organizations within the district. And so I've been able to further my own work and use my skill set to do my own initiative, as well as help people with their initiatives. And that's what's been so great that pageantry has really brought me, is the opportunity to make a difference in my community in new and unique ways. And every year that I compete in pageants, it pushes me to think bigger and more out of the box and more innovative in how I can serve the people around me. And so, yeah.
Fantastic. Crystal, what an incredible journey you've been on. Let's go back a little bit and talk about your adoption story and how it shaped your identity.
Yeah. So I was adopted as an infant. And I have, was adopted by my parents, always been raised by my parents. I have two older sisters. So I'm the youngest of three, all girls. And so I'm very lucky now that I have four nieces and nephews between the two of them.
Fantastic. And it really shaped the way that you view the world. And it looks like it drew you to the world of social work and therapy. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think I've always had a passion for helping people and for giving back. And I think because of that, my parents always talked very openly about my adoption story. I'm very lucky that I've known from a pretty young age that I was always adopted. So it was something that was always an open dialogue within our family. And so my parents also shared about how much of a great help their social worker was and how that process came to be. And my parents actually did not plan on adopting an infant because, I already have two sisters. They were planning on adopting either older kids or a sibling group. And my birth mother had wanted to place me for adoption. I was born in Indiana, and there's not a ton of people of color there, and there's not a ton of families of color who want to adopt. And so she pushed her social worker to ask them if they would be interested, even though they had not wanted to do infant adoption, but was like, I really want her to really want me to go to another family of color. And so they talked about just how the social workers advocacy really made a difference, obviously, in our lives. And I think that's really helped shape what it means to help, go above and beyond and really push for what people want and what can be in the best interest of, and what people need.
Oh, that's wonderful. So, what does the title Miss Black DC USA represent to you personally?
To me, it represents the opportunity to shine a light on Black women and our needs and our issues, and also our excellence. I think so often we can be overlooked and underfunded, undersupported, and Black women have us, we have our own unique needs, and we have our own unique voices and stories. And so being Miss Black DC gives me the opportunity to shine a light on those for others and to uplift those causes that are unique to my community.
Oh, that's fantastic. Now, you're now working as an impact strategist. Tell us a little bit about what that means and how do you use storytelling in your work?
Yeah, so I've worked with different organizations, coaches, and brands who either want to and nonprofits who either want to increase their impact. So I'll help them develop their programming, fine tune it, and look at how can we best serve the community and the population that you want to serve, and what are the needs and how can you meet that. And so really, storytelling is the best way to do it, is to learn what the needs are, is when people tell the stories, and then that the way we can see the impact is when people say, like, I think so often in social work we get so desensitized and we think things are like little things and that was no big deal. But when someone shares a story about how what's a seemingly small interaction and how much difference that made for them on a short journey and a long-term journey, those stories are really where the impact really happens, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's fascinating. What has been your most transformative moment as a leader?
Mm. My most transformative moment has been when people have come back to me like weeks, months, or down the line about things that I've said to them or advice I've given, and they've shared to me what a difference it's made for them. I never expect people to take my advice. I give it freely, kind of a take it or leave it deal. But it really
Right.
does mean a lot to me when someone, even simple things, I shared with someone one of my own daily gratitude practices, and they shared how transformational it was to them, and that just really inspired me to keep leading and sharing and opening up my own heart.
That's awesome, especially when you start to see the results of your work. That makes a big difference. I love it. Now, what societal stereotypes do you feel you've had to challenge or overcome up until this point?
Man, I think so many. I think being a Black woman is hard. And my dad would always tell me growing up, if you're, being a young Black woman, you have three strikes against you. And because people make so many assumptions about you as a woman and not being able to like handle things and leading with your emotion, or, being dramatic or things like that. And being Black and being young people have perceived me as uneducated, as uninformed. And the thing is I think letting my work and letting my receipts speak for themselves. If I only speak about things that I know, I can only talk about what I know I'm talking about. And so I'm not going to talk about other things outside of that. And so I know that what I'm saying is factual. And then I know that I have the background and the experience to speak on what I speak on. I'm not wavering from that. And then I think pageantry adds a whole different level to that. So many people make so many assumptions about pageantry and about it being superficial or kind of just glitz and glamour. But for me, pageantry really just is an opportunity to serve my community in a different way. And so constantly challenging that stereotype.
So, what was your motivation behind entering pageantry, and how have you used this platform to further your mission?
So I'd been out of grad school for a little less than a year, and I kind of just wanted to try something new. I had been on this, focus plan, being in school, being in academia, and I had this 5-year plan, and I came to the end of it, and I said, what's next? How can I give back now? And I saw there was a pageant coming up. I said, I always wanted to do pageants. Why not? And that was 5 years ago. So here we are.
That's amazing. Now, how do you blend advocacy, style, and authenticity into your public persona or image?
Hmm. I always go wherever I go all the way with who I am. Everything I do with my heart and soul. And so I'm always my authentic self 100% of the time. And I think that's really easy for me. And what's authentic to me is I'm constantly advocating for causes that are important to me and are important to the communities for me. My advocacy is far past just my formal advocacy. Even in little ways, I try and do my civic duties within my own community. And I think style is just a fun way for storytelling and for self-expression and to express myself and show who I am to people up front and to authentically show that.
I love it. Now, you are having to balance so many things. How do you stay grounded while balancing visibility and vulnerability at the same time?
Hmm. That one is tricky. That is a constant work in progress for me. I am constantly checking in with that. Um, Putting yourself out there and going for new things, as you know, is forces you to be more vulnerable with yourself first and foremost, before you
Yes.
can even put that out to other people. So navigating that and constantly checking in with myself. And one thing I struggle with is being really hard on myself. And so being very intentional about giving myself grace, and being willing to experience the journey and let it just be that and let it be a journey. And I try and do my best every day. And that looks very different every day, but that's all that I can do.
Yeah, I love it. Now, what are some of the misconceptions about women in pageantry that you would like to dispel?
There's so many. I think I could do a podcast just on that. I think first and foremost that women in pageantry are shallow, or unintelligent,
Mm.
or vapid. Um, all the women I know from pageantry are so educated, are intelligent. They are leaders. They are lawyers. They are doctors. They are change makers. They are C-suite executives. Within the Miss Black USA organization, 80% of the contestants are in graduate school or have graduate degrees or higher. And so these are highly educated women who are
Yeah.
advocates in their community. And it's really hard that I think people see pageantry sometimes and they assume the opposite instead of assuming that these are women who have spent more time and energy and investment than most people have into being good communicators, into having good public speaking, and to being good ambassadors, and to really knowing how to build a brand and image and be media ready. And those are transferable skills, as you know, within the corporate space.
I love it. Yeah, it's fascinating because people just look at the superficialness of the pageantry world and they don't realize how deep it gets as well. So, how do you help others to define their social impact goals?
Yeah, so I think I've done some workshops and talks with people and different organizations around that. And so I always tell people is to just start with where you are and what type of impact you want to make and what type of cause that is. I think the thing is we don't all have to be strike Nobel Peace Prize winners overnight. And we can make little impacts in different ways. I gave a talk a few months ago to small business owners who wanted to incorporate impact initiatives. And I said the easiest way is if you have a brick and mortar business is offer up your space for free for organizations within that cause. Like if you want to help support breast cancer, allow them to host events there for free. That's such an easy win. That's helping them. It's helping their fundraising. It's helping the goal. And it's not a huge lift on you. And so I think starting small and starting innovative sometimes and thinking outside the box.
Now, as an influencer, how are you using social media to further your message, and which platforms can people find you?
Yeah, so people can find me on mostly Instagram and TikTok. I am Crystal in Crowell on Instagram, and then as well as Miss Black DC USA. And then on TikTok as well, I am Crystal Nicole. And I can be found there. I use social media to kind of just share some of my activities, to promote some of the events, some of the fundraisers. I've done remarks at galas recently, and to be able to reach a new audience that I wouldn't, and be able to amplify my in-person message. It's really important to me that I don't use social media as a substitute for being out in the community during my time as Miss Black DC.
Love it. So, what legacy do you want to leave for the next generation of change makers? And why is it important for young people to think of themselves as change makers?
The legacy I want to leave is I want to be able to pass along the fruit that was given to me. I want to be able to make it just 1% easier for the next person who's coming behind me, that they have a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more resources, easier access than I do. And the way I try and do that is show up the best that I can, because I know that making my impact now is opening the door for them to make their impact when they get there and when they arrive. And I think it's really important for young people to realize that you can make a difference where you are right now. It's the smallest things that make a difference, and you don't necessarily need the resources or the influence or crown or 10,000 followers to be able to make an impact in your community.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Now, I want to teleport you back, and we are going to meet the younger you, this young woman who became advocate, a voice for some people who are voiceless. If you could go back and give that young woman 3 nuggets of wisdom based on what life has taught you up until this point, what would those 3 nuggets of wisdom be? I really would like you to inspire someone else who's young, who's vibrant, doesn't know how to do it. What would you have wanted somebody to have told you before you started this journey?
First and foremost, I would want someone to have told me to not base your worth on what other people decide it is. Do not base your worth on what other people have handed you and the opportunities they've given you, or in how they view and perceive you to be. That, I think, is the biggest thing that held me back for so many years, was I only believed I was as worthy as other people had reflected back to me. So that would be my first piece of advice. The second piece of advice I would give to my younger self is to be yourself. It's so cliche and everyone says it, and no one says how to do it. So I would say, here's how you do it, is whatever feels most authentic to you, unfiltered by how you are worried other people will perceive it, is often what you should go with. If something feels right to you, even if it is the untraditional way, that is who you are, and it is up to you to honor that and to foster that. And often when you feel like you don't know who you are, it's because you haven't spent enough time fostering that relationship with yourself. And the third piece of advice I would give to myself, to anyone else out there who's willing to start on a journey, who's going to start on a journey in which they're in the pursuit of something more and something bigger than themselves, is to give yourself grace and to not be too hard on yourself. It is not going to work out all the time. It might not even work out most of the time. And if you are going to beat yourself up every time something doesn't work out or it goes wrong, you are going to be your own enemy instead of your biggest supporter very quickly. Things are hard enough in the world, in life, and especially when we are in the pursuit of big dreams. The last thing you need is to make things harder for yourself. So lead with love, and be sure to include you in the company of people you're leading and meeting with love.
Absolutely beautiful. Last question. I'm going to teleport you into the future this time. And we are going to go and sit and have a conversation with the 90-year-old you. And she's sitting in her rocking chair. Maybe she's on the dance floor. Maybe she's at an event speaking. Who knows, right? With science and technology, you'll probably be on your feet. But we could teleport you into the future to meet this wise woman who has led you up until this point. What will you say to her when you finally meet her? And I'll tell you why I like asking women this question, right? A lot of women don't realize that the wise woman is already in us, that she's that quiet voice that tells you to advocate, that tells you to grab an opportunity and get on a pageant, that tells you to go left, not right, say yes, say no. And you sound like a young woman who's very in tune with her wise woman. So if you were to meet her at the age of 90 and have a conversation with her, what will you say to her when you finally meet her?
If I were to meet her at the age of 90, I think I would apologize for all the times that I did not listen to my intuition and did not listen to my own wisdom. Because I really think when you don't listen to your own wisdom and your intuition, it can betray it over time. But more than that, I think I will be so proud of myself that I truly was that resilient, that I did not let anything break me to that point. And my hope would be that at 90, I'm still leading a heart of love and I'm still meeting everyone with love. And that's the legacy, is that I've gotten to that point where I have committed to leading a life of love and of integrity, and I followed through with that. And I'm going to be really proud and honored of myself.
Absolutely wonderful. Crystal, thank you so much for coming online and sharing your amazing story with us today. It always inspires me when I get the opportunity to profile a young, progressive Black woman who's on the cutting edge of technology, is using the internet to share your message. Today, we have you here in New Zealand, Australia. You're inspiring a lot of young people to see that they can be the change that they want to see in the world. So keep doing what you're doing, and we're here to support you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. This has been amazing, and thank you for having me.
And thank you to everybody who tuned in today. The Her Story Circle is not just a podcast. We are a social impact movement that brings you the stories and voices of women from all over the world. We share our stories to uplift you, to inspire you, to energize you, but most importantly, to help take you from where you are now to where you're trying to go. So tune in again tomorrow when I interview yet another amazing guest. In the meantime, have a fantastic day, morning, or evening, wherever you are in the world. And Crystal, thanks again for the interview. Don't go away. Thank you for tuning into the Her Story Circle podcast. I hope today's story has inspired you to believe in the power of our stories and the difference you can make in the world when you use your voice. I'm Gertrude Mache, and it's been an honor to share this space with you, where voices from all walks of life come together to weave a rich tapestry of diverse perspectives. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast to help us share these stories with more listeners. Follow us on social media by looking for the Her Story Circle podcast for more updates. And join us tomorrow for another episode filled with courage, resilience, and empowerment. Remember, your story matters, and together we're building a stronger, more inclusive world. Until next time, keep making her story.